Halloween has arrived in Terraria, so today I'm going to build you all a spooky goodie bag farm to use. Greetings friends, Khaios here. With the spooky season upon us in this wonderful game, I thought it'd be fun to make a themed goodie bag farm. Normally, I save my world downloads for a Patreon reward, but today's going to be a bit different, as this world will be available in the description. And since it's officially spooky season in Terraria, I'm going to get a more appropriate vanity set on.
They drew first blood, not me. They drew first blood.
Before I get started on today's build, I just wanted to quickly remind you that the channel plushies are still available for pre-order, and they will be for a little under 2 more weeks. The sales really do help support me and the channel, so a huge thank you to everyone that's already ordered one. Links can be found down below. Goodie bags are a seasonal item in Terraria available during the Halloween event, which gives various costume sets, paintings, rotten eggs, the bat hook, or the adorable cat familiar pet from the unlucky yarn. The last 2 items in particular are relatively rare drops, but you might also be struggling to get the exact costume set that you want, so hopefully this farm can help you with that a little bit. Goodie bags are dropped from killing enemies, except for meteor heads and enemies spawned from statues, so this gives us a wide range of monsters to pick from. In this instance, I'm less interested in making the most efficient farm. The best enemies to farm would be the ones that you could kill the quickest, for example slimes from a slime rain or from King Slime. This farm will be efficient enough to use, but I want it to fit the theme of Halloween, and I also want it to be a pre-hard mode farm. I'm sorry to all of the arachnophobes out there, but today's farm is going to spawn spiders. I'm taking this one a bit above the center of the world, exactly 100 blocks above the ground. This will ensure that nothing else is spawning outside of the farm, and that we're not high enough to get harpies if the world is pushed into hard mode. I could build it underground in the desert to make it more effective, but again, I'm fussing more over the looks of the farm this time, so you'll find out why I want it above ground later. The spawning platform is 84 blocks to each side of the AFK point, which will be in the middle. Now that we have our spawning platform and AFK spot placed, we need to make sure that our wall creepers can actually spawn. Despite the fact that they are normally found underground and in caves, they can actually spawn anywhere in the world, as long as the unsafe spider wall is present. In order to get this wall, you need to make a graveyard biome and bring some web with a workbench. This gives you the safe version of the spider wall that will not spawn spiders. Take those walls to a pool of shimmer and toss them in. You'll get an unsafe infested spider wall back out. I only need enough spider wall to cover the spawn area of the platform, which is from the edge of the farm up till 62 blocks away from the AFK spot. As you can see, we now have creepy crawlies, but there's an important thing to note. In this farm design, the AFK spot must be in line of sight with the spiders, otherwise they will not come. If I place my safety box beneath this platform, no spiders are going to show up. But the second I'm in line of sight with those walls, they come pretty steadily. A line of sight isn't the only thing our AFK box needs. These spiders have to think that they can reach you. If you're surrounded by solid blocks, they're simply going to ignore you. So for this farm, we are going to trick the spiders into thinking that they can reach us. We are going to take a hoik, which is an interaction that occurs when your player is inside of a sloped block that forces you to move out of that sloped block, even if it pushes you into another solid block, and we are going to use this interaction combined with block swapping and platforms to trick the spiders into thinking that they can reach us. First, create a sloped block with the slope side either on the lower left or the lower right side of the block. Then block swap it with a platform. The platform will not look like it is sloped because they're not designed to be shaped in that direction normally, but the slope is still saved in the block. You can test this by block swapping back to a solid tile, seeing that it still retains that triangle shape. Because of this, when you block swap a sloped block into a platform, the game thinks that it is both a sloped block and a flat platform at the same time. A flat platform will allow entities to walk through it and to see through it, but because it's also seen as a sloped block, the hoik interaction kicks in when something steps inside of the platform, and the slope immediately pushes it out in the direction of that slope. So because of this block swapped hoik platform, spiders see the platform and think that they can reach you in the AFK spot, so they spawn and they run in. But they can't ever actually get to you. Now let's build our AFK spot and kill chamber. This is going to be a variation of the classic volcano farm, but with platforms. The platforms are placed around the AFK spot using that hoik interaction to keep you safe in the AFK farm. The kill chamber will be a small box above the AFK spot, only 4 blocks in height, because spiders can fit into a 2-block tall gap. To get these spiders into the box, the platforms are placed on the outer sides and sloped into stairs with the flat side against the box, and then actuating those stairs so they no longer have collision. This is another form of the hoik interaction, which allows entities to walk into solid blocks as long as they're walking in from the side with the stairs. Therefore, spiders can get in, but spiders can't get out. The step up to the kill chamber requires a solid block on the bottom. If I used platforms instead of blocks, the spiders would just walk into them like this, but due to the hoik interaction, they wouldn't be able to pass through and they go nowhere. But if you use a solid block at the very bottom, the spiders know that they cannot walk through it and they are forced to jump when they come into contact with it. When they jump, the hoik-shaped platforms above keep them on track for the kill box, and the overhanging ceiling prevents them from overjumping the farm and avoiding the kill chamber entirely, thus forcing them into that little box. Now, all that's needed to make that box lethal to the spiders is a single bucket of lava splashed inside of it, and now the farm is technically complete from a functional point of view. But I'm not done yet. Obviously, a line of stone and some green team blocks does not a spooky farm make, so it's time for me to Halloween this build up. I want to go with something demonic or satanic looking for this farm, so in the center, right above the AFK and kill spots, I started a large skull made primarily out of gray painted frozen slime block. Frozen slime has the darkest, most metallic color when painted gray out of all of these slime and honey blocks, which is why it became my choice here. Once I was happy with the shape of the skull, I started to make the AFK area more interesting with a blend of wrought iron fence, copper plating, and tin plating, all with gray paint. I used echo coating to hide anything that was mandatory for the farm to function, but it wouldn't look all that good in the final build. Then I had the idea to make the skull look like it was bursting into flame, which I did with living fire block. After that, I moved to underneath the farm to add demonic looking decorative bits using red painted crimtane brick and some ruby gem spark blocks for the center sigil, with more wrought iron fence and living fire blocks dotted around. And once I was happy with the overall look of the area, it was time to move on to the spider spawn. I figured it would look best if they were crawling out from dark webbed caves, so I rounded off a small one with gray painted sandstone block, texturing it with some gray painted sand and using a blend of craggy stone wall, worn stone wall, and infected spider wall on the inside. Then I filled up the area with cobwebs to make it even more darker and more spidery, and brown painted clay to replace the metallic floor underneath the cave. I went with clay over dirt because I don't want any blink root or strange plants spawning within the farm. When the left cave was complete, I swapped over to the right and brought the same concept ideas over there. I also went ahead and decorated outside of the caves a little bit using the Rebel Maker, and now the farm looks adequately themed for Halloween. But as you can see here, there's a slight problem with it. While the top of the caves do look good, they also allow for slimes to spawn, as they don't have infested spider wall behind them. I have two different ideas on how I could fix this. I can either fill the area above the caves with infested spider wall, then echo coat it so you can't see the wall, to have spiders crawling from both the tops of the cave as well as inside of it, or I can cover the top of the cave in echo wall to prevent spawns entirely. I'm not sure which will look better overall, so I'm going to mess around with it. But that isn't the only thing that I want to do at this point. As I said, I wanted this farm to be above ground for a reason, because it would have looked just fine underground. And that reason is the graveyard biome. I feel like chucking down 9 of these tombstones and echo coating them will really add to the atmosphere of the build, and since it's on the surface, we will even get flashes of lightning and claps of thunder to go along with it. So let me get those final details in. Well, unfortunately, I've run into 2 new problems. If I spawn-proof the top of the caves, for some reason almost no spiders spawn inside of the caves. But if I leave infected spider webs on the top of them for the spiders to spawn in front of, they end up climbing on the invisible walls, and I think it looks a little janky. I'm gonna try to find a nice middle ground where I have enough wall for them to spawn, but not enough for them to climb. The other problem that I've run into is that at 8 tombstones or more, the graveyard can spawn zombies, even in front of infested spider walls. I didn't think they'd be able to spawn in front of that wall, but they can. Now, they do fit the theme of the build, but as I mentioned earlier, I kind of shot myself in the foot by making the kill chamber only 2 blocks tall in height, so the zombies can't actually fit inside of that. With the skull there, I would either have to rebuild the skull, go into Tiedit and raise it up a block higher, or I could just drop the farm down to 6 tombstones, which makes the area less gray and dark and removes the thunder and lightning, but it does leave the fog and desaturation of the graveyard. Ultimately, I think I'm just going to go with that, but to help balance the spooky factor out, I want to use an echo-coated blood monolith. I thought that I had worked out all of the kinks until... Yep. Apparently the ghosts that spawn while in a graveyard biome do not have the same spawn requirements as zombies. In fact, they can spawn as long as it's a graveyard mini biome at all. It doesn't matter how many tombstones I have. Worst of all, they go through blocks, which means hoiking cannot keep the player safe in this farm. As much as it pains me, I'm actually going to have to scrap the graveyard idea completely, and that kind of sucks because I really love the aesthetic of it. I really wish that there was a graveyard monolith so that we could get the awesome effect of the graveyard without having the biome itself. But alas, there isn't one. I thought maybe the void monolith would be a good solution to this, but frankly it's too dark. I love the way that it looks with the Crimtane brick, but unfortunately that's all I love about it. On top of being dark and shaky, it completely hides all of the living fire. So I decided to go with a solar monolith for the fiery appearance at the very least, and now, well, the farm seems to have drastically slowed down because I am sitting in a pre-hard mode forest biome and I'm no longer using a graveyard. Guess I'm gonna have to make a jungle? I'm really wishing that I had stuck with this underground in the desert idea to begin with instead of putting it up on the surface with a graveyard. So, you know what? Forget the jungle. I'm just going to hop into Tiedit and move it after all. I can't give you all the vibe that I wanted with the graveyard biome without compromising the farm's safety or completely redesigning the entire farm to deal with the ghosts, so I might as well give you a more effective underground farm. This build turned out to be quite a bit larger of a project than I originally planned. I thought since it's midweek, viewership tends to be lower midweek, I could do a nice quick looking farm for a few hours, get one video out in a single day, but all of these tweaks and changes from issues have really set me back. In fact, I had to wake up at 5 AM this morning after going to bed after midnight just to finish this video. Hopefully it was all worth the effort. And here's the final version of the build. Even though I couldn't safely have it in the graveyard biome like I originally wanted, and even though I much preferred that appearance, I do think I did a decent enough job with the theme for Halloween in this version. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you've been enjoying these videos lately, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get notified as soon as I upload. Don't forget that we still have plushies available for pre-order. A huge thank you to my biggest supporters for the month, Hypic3 and Sarcasm Not Intended. And be sure to check out my channel artist MythicalWater, linked in the description below. Thank you all very much for watching. Be back soon with a new video.